to it.
Let's do it.
So did you know that Lord Victor Rotschild, the third Baron Rothschild, spoke only twice in front of the House of the Lords? Only twice in his entire life. Did you know that?
No, I had no
Do
idea.
you know what are the topics?
No.
There were 2 times when he spoke. The first one was about the situation in Palestine. And the second one, he spoke in front of the House of the Lords in regards to pasteurization of milk. Why would he?
And what was his perspective?
We have to pasteurize the milk.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on raw milk?
I mean, raw milk is it's deadly, man. Obviously, everybody.
It's so bad, right?
It's so bad, and no, it's raw milk is something I've been not necessarily studying, but just aware of for I want to say almost 13, 14 years. I interviewed several
a little bit closer, Mike.
several ranchers back in the day, and I've actually interviewed a few on our podcast. Raw milk is one of the most vilified and demonized foods on the planet, but it is also one of the most health-giving foods that I would say humans could have ever known. And so it's a wild.
But raw milk, especially cow milk or goat milk too? Sheep milk?
I would say raw. Oh, I mean, there's incredible research. There's incredible research on helping children heal from autism with camel milk. And so I would argue.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can cure autism with camel
I don't know
milk?
if it's a cure. I don't know if it's a
But
cure.
it helps.
But I have seen and heard there's a few influencers that are really, really proponents of raw camel milk.
Where can you get it?
therapy.
Dubai?
No, you can get it from there. I think there's actually a place local here in San Diego. I think
Really?
I think somewhere up in Ramona, I believe. But one of our food co-ops, they actually offer it as well. We've ordered it a couple times. It comes
Camel milk?
Uh-huh.
What's the taste?
It tastes a little bit more earthy. But it's actually very, very rich. And overall, like, we made smoothies out of it, and I just wanted to test it. And overall, I would say from a raw milk perspective, it tastes pretty standard. And if you haven't seen the difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk, like just side by side,
Yes.
it's night and day. If you've never seen pumped breast milk and formula side by side, it's
You want to say this is almost the same thing? Like baby formula and breast milk is like regular pasteurized milk and raw milk?
I would say that it could possibly be similar, right? Except that the pasteurized milk still comes from an animal, to some degree. But, if you even talk about something as simple as like antibiotics, most people don't know that the majority of the antibiotics used in the world is from cows of dairy farms, like conventional dairy farms, because they're so sick and it's so like disgusting of an ecosystem. If you've ever been to a dairy farm, most cases they're not the most sanitary, which is why they justify, right, pasteurization. But if you have ever seen a raw dairy farm and you've seen raw dairy cows on the pasture,
Correct.
if you've ever seen it, it's night and day, right? It's a difference between
Green grass,
LA,
sun,
right? You go to Skid Row, like, this may be a little bit hyperbolic, right? But you go to Skid Row versus like
Be careful.
New Zealand, you know what I'm saying? Like, you see the difference between ecosystems for a healthy human to thrive.
Oh, Skid Row at Newport Beach.
Or even that, right?
Orange County, right?
Sorry, I went too far. I went too far.
Be patriotic.
I went too.
More patriotism.
I appreciate that, because I could say San Diego for sure.
Okay.
Except some places downtown San Diego.
So,
which are not.
in regard to raw milk or pasteurized milk of cow or goat or sheep or even camel, there is always an ethical question to me. Were we supposed to drink cow's milk? Since cow's milk
Good
is
question.
basically for cattle, right?
Yeah.
And it's specifically made for those calves. Just like mom's milk, breast milk is specifically for that baby. When she has another baby, she's gonna have way another milk with fats, proteins, vitamins, etc.
That's a really good question. Because if you get into the pure paleo diet communities, there are perspectives that say that humans should drink human milk and cows should drink cow milk, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that I have been in that camp before, and I would also say that there are different camps, right? And different philosophies and different ways of choosing nutrition. One of my favorites by far is a group called Weston A. Price. I don't know if you've heard of this individual. Weston A. Price was a you've heard of like holistic dentistry, biological dentistry. Okay. So it's a whole field now that doesn't use mercury, that doesn't use heavy metals, that doesn't use fluoride, that makes sure
I don't use fluoride.
their products are clean. But as a dentist, right, as a profession of dentistry, there's a subset of dentists that don't do any.
They don't do the root canals, right? Because it's crucial and they're connected to our brains.
They largely reverse them, right? And so the Weston Price was from the early 1900s, and he was a kind of like a medical anthropologist / dentist who in his patients was seeing the wide chasm of those who were just expressing chronic illness coupled with dental cavities, coupled with teeth crowding. And he found that in one generation, families would go from healthy jaws, cranial vaults, wide, broad smiles, no teeth crowding, to complete like disarray in their teeth. But he also saw a trend of chronic illness during that time. And he wrote a book called Nutritional and Physical Degeneration. And this book, he basically went into ancestral tribes and communities, whether it was like the mountain people, the Swiss, I brought up New Zealand because the Maori of New Zealand were in the book, to Hawaiians, to all sorts of ancestral people, right? And he could see clear as day that once industrial foods came into these communities, white sugar, white flour, like these modern foods, immediate, one generation, decimation of their teeth, total decline in their overall health. And they have twins that were raised in two different communities that never exposed to modern foods, completely, exposed to modern foods, and the same. Like they would have the genetically identical individuals that had complete different expression of their genes, right? Why is this important is now, today, there's a modern day Weston Price by the name of Mary Ruddick. I might introduce you to her. She's incredible.
Mary Ruddick?
Mary Ruddick, Ruddick. And she is in these tribes for a good part of her, career, studying the same thing. Like, when do we see like health change? And she said there's two foods that actually cause it. One, corn.
Of course.
The other, seed oils. She found that, like Weston Price said, it was modern foods, which is still largely true, processed foods, things like that. But she found that it was very key with these two different types of foods.
And corn is big only here in the US, right? You've got this incentive, I won't say like 100 years ago, to grow corn because it grows well. You get the harvest, and it's
and 90%
cheaper.
of it is also genetically modified.
Yes.
In the United States. That's why it's everywhere, from maltodextrin to all the different like high fructose corn syrup, like a lot of the different additives that go into our food systems that actually have some sort of incentives around them, largely are through the corn industry. Anyways, the whole point of me saying that is Weston Price then looked at these different communities that showed thriving, optimal health and degenerative conditions, and they weren't all one diet, right? They were largely some sort of fermented food. Like there was some sort of very strong influence of probiotic. There was definitely a high amount of animal fats, not just protein, animal fats, not just carnivore. And then if they ever had meat, it was almost always slathered with fat. And rarely did they only eat muscle like we do in Western countries, right? Like the carnivore guys are firing down a ton of steaks. Not saying that's bad, but they always ate organs. They always ate bone broth. They always had some sort of, and they had different like specifics between these communities, and many of them included like raw cow's milk and raw other mammals' milk. And not to say that we studied them long term, but these countries and communities also subsisted multiple generations doing these same types of diets that maybe contradict that a little bit, right? Meaning I love paleo. Like I've studied like Lauren Cordain, Boyd Eaton, a lot of the people that were the original medical anthropologists had said Paleolithic nutrition was the thing and the way to go. And it was the nuance that I felt like I was going to be open to, right? And so we found that in our family, raw milk or especially like raw cheeses are actually very helpful, right? And that's what I learned from a lot of the ranchers early on, is that they would show, like, they're not scientists, but they have had science done to their milk, where under a microscope, look at raw milk. Under a microscope, look at pasteurized milk.
Alive and dead.
Exactly.
I've seen it.
You can see it. You can see it's like a red blood, like looking at a petri dish of blood, red blood cells, big molecules, big things that largely are full of nutrition and life. And on the other side, nothing. It's like it was sub-Saharan, it's like the desert, completely emaciated.
So milk, and raw milk in specifics, is a great source of calcium, right? So they're telling feed your kids with the milk because that's where they're going to get those calcium for the bones, etc. Now, then the question is the following. What about people like you? I mean, Chinese, originally from China. You do not tolerate milk, right? Because you don't have any cattle in China. They don't have any cattle in China. Is that correct? Is that true?
So there's a whole like kind of theory that Asians are lactose intolerant.
Yes. Is that true?
And then if you've ever actually had those types of families actually consume raw dairy, like many of the people, which I learned from ranchers more so than I learned from healthcare providers back then, they basically said that sometimes if you start to consume raw dairy, you heal a lactose intolerance. And why do you have a lactose intolerance, right? Why do you have a sensitivity to a food? Is it because of the food, or is it because of what they did to the food, right?
Good question.
Most of the pasteurized dairy, you don't even realize it starts to degenerate and destroy, especially the protein, right? The whey protein, but more so the casein protein gets so altered and so destroyed that it creates a level of sensitivity that is the modern dairy allergy today. So most people that have a dairy allergy, I'm not saying that you should go out and just fire down a ton of raw milk tomorrow, but if you went down that path, you might find that your body regulates and heals an old digestive distress problem, not just because of what it is, right, versus how it was raised and how it was treated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. So this is really important, and especially because you guys are gonna have a baby soon, and you just had Stu. Man,
This guy is amazing.
those videos and Stu are incredible, right? Like, how many moms that are listening to this have been told that your child has a dairy allergy and to stop nursing?